Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, the Automation Hub. So today I will talk about CSS Selector. So CSS Selector is one of the locator in Selenium. As I already mentioned in my tutorial previously, there are 8 types of locator in Selenium WebDriver. So I already discussed 7 types like the name, ID, like CSS Selector, class name, like this. I already mentioned in my previous tutorial, but today I will talk about CSS selector only. Multiple ways to write CSS selector. So I will discuss today. So as you can see in my screen, I already mentioned these points like these symbols to create CSS selector, right? For if you want to if you want to locate any element, you can use CSS selector also. The way we create XPath, I already mentioned in my previous tutorial, so you can check that one also. So also there is a way to create a CSS selector using these symbols. So sometime you can face one interview question about CSS selector and the XPath. Like what is the difference between CSS selector and the XPath? So in for that question you can, once you will understand this point, these all symbols and the way how you are going to create, so that way you can understand like what is the difference, so you can tell the interviewer like this is the main difference. But I will tell you right now few main points. Like if someone asks you like what is the difference between CSS selector and XPath, so first difference is CSS selector is fastest as compared to XPath, because CSS selector directly hit the element, but but if you go to the XPath, in XPath sometimes the element is go by the tag name through like the way the from the root. So that way like it will take few seconds extra as compared to CSS selector. And the second difference is, guys, for CSS selector, like if you XPath is based if you are if you are fetching any element, like if you are locating one element in Chrome browser, right? And after the same element you want to locate in the Firefox browser. So sometime if you are going to locate one element in Firefox and you want same element, like the same XPath you want to use in Firefox or MSH, in that browser might be you will face the issue. But for CSS selector, guys, if you're creating one CSS selector for that element, you can use the same element in different browser, because the CSS selector value will never change, right? So this is the main difference you can say, because CSS value will never change. If I'm locating this element, one second I will show you. I will show you right now. The Firefox I will open. Okay, so I will open this browser. I want to locate this element. So how you are going to locate this element? Just right click on this and go to inspect option. So once you will click on inspect, this element will select, right? So as I moved my cursor in this element, the HTML code, so in the left panel you can see the your full name field is highlighted, right? You can see the input value and these thing when I move my cursor to the this HTML code. So in that way you can see like this element is selected, right? So guys, I want to create one CSS selector for this element, and this website I will use in Chrome browser also. So in that way this value will never change, but for XPath sometime it's changed. So we can say CSS selector value is same, but XPath is changed as depend on the browser. So this is also the another difference. And there is a way, like you can see here, I mentioned here the symbols. So when you write the CSS selector, dynamic CSS selector, so in that way we use these symbols, right? The hash and the dot and the tag name this way. But when you're creating the XPath, you will create, I already mentioned, but I will tell you right now. Like if you want to create XPath, XPath. For XPath, you will write like this, double slash, then tag name, then bracket, and in the inside this, you will mention like attribute, at the rate attribute, sorry, at the rate attribute equal, in single quote, you will write the value, right? This way we create the XPath, right? I already mentioned this point before. And when you are going to write the CSS selector, so for CSS selector, guys, CSS selector, when you are going to write this, so how we are going to write? You can see here the symbols. So there is one also using attribute. So when you are going to use attribute, the difference will be what? In XPath, we use double slash, right? But when you are going to create the CSS selector, there is no need to add double slash, right? So you just mention tag name, bracket. There is no need to add at the rate. I'm not going to add at the rate because I'm creating the CSS selector. But if you are going to create the XPath, you need add symbol, right? But I'm not going to add this. Just mention attribute equal value. So you can say, guys, like this is the also the one difference, like you, when you are going to create the XPath, you need double slash and add the rate symbol. But when you are going to create the CSS selector, you just need to mention like tag name, then attribute equal to value. This way we will create the CSS selector. So guys, this is also the another difference. So this way we can differentiate between XPath and CSS selector. So today I will show you like how I am going to use this symbol to create XPath, sorry, CSS selector, right? So first symbol we will use, as you can see in my screen, I already mentioned using ID. When you are going to check the ID, one second, I will show you. Using ID, when you are going to select ID, so you can use hash symbol. Use hash symbol. So I will show you right now. So just go to in this website and I'm going to create CSS selector for this element, right? So just click in this option and then select this path, this element. So when you're going to select this one, so you will see right side blue highlighted part is the selected one, right? So just do Control F, right? Once you will do Control F, I'm going to write the CSS selector, right? Using the hash symbol, right? So as you can see here, guys, in this element, you can see we have tag name input, attribute is ID, and the value is form get form this, like this is the value, attribute value. Also another attribute is class, then type, then name, then placeholder. These are the attributes, right? And the equal to, in double quotes, you can see the attribute value. So guys, I will show you first one. I will show you if you are going to use ID, then so how you can create CSS selector using ID. So for this, you just mention tag name. What is the tag name? Input, right? And then we need to use hash because I'm going to use ID, right? So ID value will be this, right? So once I will click on this and click enter. So see guys, this CSS selector is created. As you can see, one of one. There is one matching node only. So you can see this element is selected when when I am entering here. So you can see here, guys, this field is selected in the left panel. See. So you can see using hash symbol, I just created one CSS selector. So I will mention in my page like first one is using hash, I can say this way I created, right? One second, I'm going to, right? So guys, Using hash symbol, I just created one CSS selector and I used ID, right? So in that way you can create, you are fetching this element, right? Using CSS selector. So this element is unique one because you can see one of one. So this mean guys, this CSS selector is unique one. There is no another matching node. Only this one is the unique property you can see, right? So this one is the first one, right? Second option guys, you understand or not? Like using hash symbol, I just used ID value and I just created a CSS selector. So the how I created, just tag name, then symbol, then attribute value. The attribute I'm going to use ID, so the ID value will be this one, right? The attribute is ID and the value is this. So this way I just created one CSS selector. Okay guys. Second I will talk about class name. Class name. So for class name, as you can see here guys, use dot symbol. So when you are going to use class name, you can use dot symbol only to create CSS selector. I will show you right now. Just go to the website and I'm going to select another field. This one, I want to select this field. So this field, when you click on this field, you can see right side, highlighted part, highlighted HTML code is written. You can see in blue, right? So you can see this element, the business email. You can see we have tag name input and the attribute is ID. We have class, right? I'm going to use class, right? So we have class and the value is email text. The type attribute we have, name attribute we have. So in this way, like you can see multiple attributes mentioned in this field, in this element, right? So I want to show you for class name, right? One second, I will show you. One second. Class, using class name. So when you are going to use class name, you just need dot symbol, right? So I will show you right now. Let's create using class name. Okay guys, so I was talking about class name, right? So you can see here, if you're using class name, you just need dot symbol, right? So I will show you right here. So just click on this element, right? I'm going to fetch this the same element I want to check. So just click on this. So blue highlighted part you can see, and I want to use the class name. The class is class attribute I am going to use here. So just select the class attribute value. Value is text. So I'm going to copy this and just I will mention again input. Tag name is input, then dot symbol and then mention text. The value is text because the class attribute value is text. So when you will write this way, just click on enter key. Just enter. When you're going to press enter, you can see guys, there is a 4 matching node with the same property, right? You can see 2. When I will go to click on this again, this field is selected, then this field is selected. So what is the meaning of this? The meaning is guys, there is 4 matching node with the same property. Means the class attribute with the same value you can see in 4 different element. So 4 of 4. This is the like you can say we have 4 matching node with the same property. Class attribute equal to value is text. So how you are going to fetch this element? Because sometimes we don't use class attribute because most of the cases guys, you can see class name is not unique. You can see multiple elements with the same class name you can see, and sometimes class name will change in the future also. So I am not going to recommend this attribute, but I just mentioned this way you can fetch the element. You can write the CSS selector. So you can see for this we don't have unique value, but I just created in this way you can create the CSS selector. But there is another way I will show you. If you face there is multiple nodes, so you can mention, guys, different value also. Like you can use two different attributes value for the same input. So in that way, we can give the filter like I want to fetch this element only. So I will provide two different value with the same element, right? So this way we can use, I will show you later, but right now I will just copy this, like this is the way. Just use, sorry guys, just use the second one is class attribute, right? For class attribute, just write this way. So this is the second one I just mentioned here. Third attribute is using attribute, guys. The symbol is, third symbol is, we don't have symbol, we just way pattern we have, how we create, how we write CSS selector. If you are using attribute, like if you are using different attribute, like these are also attribute, like the ID and the name, class name also a attribute. But if you want to use a different attribute, like in this element you can see class, type, name, these are the attribute, and you want to use these attribute and you want to create CSS selector. So I will show you right now, guys. Okay. So for these attribute, guys, I will show you right now. So what is the syntax? One second, go here and just see. Using attribute, the syntax is tag name first, then use bracket and attribute equal to value. We just need to mention this, like I mentioned here. When we create Xpath, we use double slash and at the rate symbol. But when you are going to use create CSS selector, you don't need to add double slash. You just mention tag name in the bracket, just mention attribute equal to value. This way, guys, we create the CSS selector. So I will show you right now. Okay, guys, so see, in this element, when I fetch this one, right? So this element, guys, you can see we have multiple attributes like ID, class, type, name, and placeholder and text index. Like these are the attributes and the value is in the double quote, whatever the mention they mention, these are the attribute value. So I am going to use attribute. So let's see. I will use type first, guys. I will use type. So I am going to copy the attribute value. The syntax is what? Tag name. So tag name is, guys, input. The first value is input field. So tag name is input, right? Then use bracket. Okay, syntax was what? Tag name, bracket, then attribute equal to value. This way we write, right? So I use just tag name is input, bracket, then the attribute I am going to use what? Type. I just mention here type, attribute equal to type, and the value is equal to text, right? So guys, first thing I mention here, as you can see, there is a three matching node. You can see one, two, three, right? Again, you can come to this first field, then third field, the third element, then the phone number, this one element. Again, I am going to the first one. The first I am locating this element, right? Your full name. So you can see here, there is a three matching node with the same value. So you will understand like the type attribute having the same value text in these all three elements. So how you are going to filter this element? Because when you are going to write this element, so like the when you are going to launch you are going to run the script, so driver will confuse, like, right? Compiler will confuse which element we need to enter, which element we need to select. But because there is a multiple field, right? So in that way, I'm going to use multiple attribute. I'm going to use multiple value here. Enter. So you can see I'm going to fetch this element, right? So when I enter text equal to, sorry, type equal to text, so this way we have three matching node. Then I will use name attribute also, guys. So when I'm going to use name attribute, so just bracket and just mention the attribute. I'm going to use name and equal to value. The value is this. So when I entered this way, you can see, guys, this unique element is highlighted, one of one. So you understand or not? Because I used two different to do two attribute value here with the same element. So in that way, we filtered our element, like this first element I just choose with, I provided two attribute value and the tag name. So in that way we can create CSS selector, guys. If you're like choosing one attribute and still you can see there is a multiple element with the same value, so you can use different attribute also, right? So in that way, guys, I just filtered this element and you can see one of one. So so for this element we have only one unique value, like the type is text and the name is full name. So you can say this element is unique one. I just created CSS selector for this element and one of one. There is no other element with the same property, right? Only this element has the same property, right? So I will copy this. So I'm going to mention here, guys, because you can see I already here mention in my already mentioned this. Sorry. So I just mentioned this way attribute value. And you can see fourth number also. That's attribute I used. This was not common, so I used double attribute value, multiple attribute, using multiple attributes. So the way I mention here. So right, so this way you can understand tag name, then attribute one, then again second attribute I will provide. One attribute is type, second is name, and the value is full name. So in that way I just filtered this element and I got the unique value, right? Okay, guys. So fourth one is also covered, guys, because for the first one is this one, third one is attribute. So attribute equal to value this one, but when we checked there is multiple matching node with the same attribute, so I used second attribute also. So in that way my element is unique, right? So guys, I covered both scenario, right? Third one and fourth one, and let's discuss fifth one. Okay, so you can see, guys, contains keyword. So contains we can also use the contains keyword I used in Xpath also, right? Contains we used in Xpath also, right? So the same way we can create CSS selector using contains, but when you are going to contains, you just need asterisk symbol, like this symbol. This symbol, guys, you need to use if you are using contains. I will show you right now. Okay. So for this, guys, I will show you all these uh, properties, all these syntax with these field, right? So I will show you like in this, like, let's see. So here I'm going to use contains. So guys, you can see here id id attribute with this value, right? This value. And I want to show you contains means this element contains this value. Contains keyword means what? Contains keyword means this element is this element the has contained this value, right? The form, like partial value you can provide and use contain symbol. So this way, like this element is containing this value, right? Company name containing company name, ID is this. So like this, I will show you right now. So the tag name is input, right? And you can use asterisk, and the contains means contains. Okay, so sorry for this, guys, just tag name is this bracket, and I will show you ID contains. This way you need to write. in the single quote I will enter form. The partial value I entered, right? So guys, you can see there is a 13 matching node with this contains, matlab means ID is same, ID value is same with 13 different element, guys. When I will enter, you can see here multiple element, right? So in that way you can understand there is a 13 matching node with the same value contain this form, right? Let's say I will use different value. So in that way you can use see. Okay. Okay guys, I want to enter only this part. The first half part I want to enter. So you can see ID contains this value. Let's see guys, same again same. And I want to use this way like this the all these things only the last value I just keep. So when I'm going to click on this, so see guys, when you use partial value, the unique like the half value I used, I didn't provided whole value. Like for the ID attribute, I didn't give full value. I just gave the partial value like this way, full. I didn't mention name here, right? In value, you can see this is the full value, but I just provided the partial part. And you can see, guys, contains means this element in containing this value. So when you are going to click on this, see 1 of 1 means there is only one matching node with this value. Means this input field contains ID with this value. ID value is this. So this way you can create, right? Guys, this means contains. ID contains half of value. So you can provide half value and you can create the CSS selector using contains keyword, right? Okay. So this way, guys, you can create contains. Create CSS selector using contains keyword. So asterisk symbol I used. Asterisk means contains. So ID contains partial value this. So this value is fetched. So this is the way to write CSS selector using contains, right? So this one is fifth one, right? So one second, guys. Okay. So this way you can see contains I used, right? Let's discuss with starts with and ends with. Okay. So guys, I already mentioned these points. Let's show you. Right now I will show you. Like, okay. So sometimes you can see few elements have dynamic value, right? Like I mentioned this, like there is a one button, right? And okay, in that button, bu double T. Okay, sorry. This button ID is changing every time. There is a some static part and some is dynamic part. Let's see. A, B, C, D, like there is a one ID with 4, 5, 6, right? This way. When you refresh this page and the button values change, right? Then again the ID is changed to A, B, C, D, and the last value is changed to like this. Then again change to like this. Okay, again you refreshed your page and then again A B C D like this ID is changed to 777. So what you understand, guys? In this scenario, like the some part is static and some part is dynamic. What is the static part? Static means fixed. Okay, but dynamic means changing things like changing value. Dynamics means value will be changed, but static means value will be fixed, right? So this is the difference. So static part you can say ABCD underscore. This is the static part, guys, because every time when page is refreshed, this value is fixed, but the last three digit is changing every time, guys. Last three digit is changing. So the dynamic part will be for this ID dynamic part will be last three digit, but the static part will be in the from start there is a five digit like abcd underscore, this is static, this is not going to change, right? But every time this part is changing. You noticed this thing in for this element, right? Button element. For this scenario, guys, what you will do? Okay, for this scenario, I will do what? I will use starts with, because you can see starting point is same, static, but the ending point is, okay, changing. So you can use start symbol for this arrow, upper arrow I will use. And for and with means what? Like let's see, for end means होगा like ends with. So there is a one id, and you can see here id value is like 1 2 3 4, and the like this test, right? Then again id is changed to 1 2 3 4 and the test. Okay, so ends with. So starts with is the static one. Here is ends with the static one. The test is not going to change, but every time the numerical value is changing. So this is the dynamic part and this is the static part, right? So this way you can understand. This is the static part and this is the dynamic part. The number is dynamic part because every time I'm refreshing my page, so every time this value is going to change, but this value is constant, right? The constant value is, you can say, static one, and the dynamic value is, you can say, dynamic one, right? So for start with we use upper arrow symbol. For ends with we use dollar symbol, right? So I will show you right now. For let's see, let's check this element. Okay, I'm going to check this element, and I will use here starts with, because in this page in this website there is no dynamic element, because when you refresh nothing is changing, right? Nothing is changed, static value is same, like all the values are static ones. But you can see in future some website has like this static dynamic value also. In that scenario you can use starts with or ends with, but I will show you like how we can write, so you can understand. But when you will face this type of issue, so you can easily write this way, right? So that's why I'm going to tell you this part also. So for this, like I am going to fetch this element. Okay, guys. So for this element starts with, let's see, I'm going to use starts with. So starts with, I will tell you for this attribute also. Let's assume, let, okay, let's see, just think about this value is static, but this is changing. Let's assume this point. This is not the dynamic, but I just want to tell you, just let's assume this value is dynamic and this value is static, this part. So I will do what? I'm going to use starts with. Okay, so copy this portion and I will tell you sorry, how to write. So I will tell you right now, just tag name input, right, bracket. Okay, then start with, I'm going to use id, then arrow, upper arrow, right? Because we are going to use starts with, and equal to, I will mention the static part. I just assumed this is a static part and this is the dynamic part. This is not the dynamic, but I am assuming this thing, and just mention the static and enter. So see guys, still you can see 13 matching node with the same value, right? And you are going to use starts with, so you can see we have 13 matching node in which id starts from this value, right? So 13 matching node we have. For those 13 element, the id value is this, starts from this value, right? So I just mentioned this and you can see 13 value, right? but you want to locate this one only. You don't want to, you just want unique value, right? And you use start with. So what you can do, right? I already mentioned one option. You can provide the multiple attributes. So in that way you can fetch that element, unique one, right? So I just use starts with this ID, and I will mention the one attribute like name. Second attribute I am using name here. So I will use name, then equal, and just mention the value. And just when you click on enter, see guys, one of one. So there is only one matching node with these attribute value, these properties. So you can say this one is the unique one because there is no other matching node with the same property, right? And you can see when I clicked on this, you can see this element is highlighted, the one I was trying to locate, right? So in that way guys, you can create a selector. I don't have any dynamic value in this website, that's why I just choose this element. If there is another dynamic value in some website, so the same way you can apply, so the same way this will work guys. Just you just need to use upper arrow, this means starts with, and the starts with value you just mention here, and that way you can create the CSS selector. So I am mentioning this point because there is no dynamic value in this page, so I will mention this only, right? So for starts with, okay guys, so for starts with I can say here 6 1. Hmm. So sixth one is starts with. So you can see upper arrow I used. Let's see ends with. Okay. So ends with we use dollar symbol, right? So I am going to show you here. So dollar symbol I will use in this. Okay. I want to check any other. Sorry. Let's locate this element. Okay. So guys, in this element you can see there is class attribute which these large name in the class name is very large, but I want to show you the ends with. So ends with means what? Class value is this. So I am copying last value only, the last part, and I want to fetch this accept cookies option. So let's create CSS selector. So for this, what is the tag name, guys? Tag name is div, right? So I will use div, then bracket, then which attribute I'm going to use? Class, right? Because class only mentioned here. So I will class, right? For ends with here, guys, we need to use dollar symbol. So I will use dollar and equal to, just mention the ends with value only. So I just copied the end path, the value end part, and just entered here and click. See guys. So when you click here, one of one, right? In the right side you can see one of one. So there is only one matching node with this value. Like this class ends with this value, this value. So see guys, the class value is cookie container, right? So you can see the ends with this value. So it's is in that way you can understand guys, this element is unique because there is only one matching node, there is no other matching node, right? So in that way you can create CSS selector using ends with, right guys? So I'm going to mention here this one also. So guys, you understand or not, like how we are creating CSS selector using these symbols, right? Using these symbols, how I am creating, right? So guys, as I mentioned this in the left side, all these syntax, and the right side you can see the difference. So I already covered all these points. So in that way guys, you will understand how we write CSS selector using these symbols, and how what is the difference between XPath and CSS selector. So guys, I think all the topics are covered. So do practice this symbol thing. Like once you will practice creating the CSS selector using these symbols, you will understand, and this will very easy. Like this will be very easy once you will try 1 or 2 times and just practice and write your script and just run your code. So this is the very unique one, and this is very easiest one. Just remember the symbols. Like when you are going to use ID attribute, just use hash. There is no need to write this way, like the long way. Just use hash and just provide the value. So in that way, just this is the easiest way. And guys, CSS selector is also important because sometimes, like if you don't have any predefined locator like ID or name, nothing is there, so you can use CSS selector or XPath. So in that way, you can create CSS selector and you can write the script, right? So this is all about CSS selector, guys. So do practice and please watch my tutorial, and thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe my channel.